So you want to learn about Xaku and came to a Femboy for it. Don't worry honey, I can see you're confused. In this video, I'll be going over Xaku's abilities and use cases, an easy to copy build for beginners that can go toe to toe with normal star chart, and how you get Xaku. In that order, let's get started. First up, Xaku's first ability, Zada's Whisper. This ability is pretty straightforward. It just takes your guns and adds extra void damage to each shot. Now, if that void damage just so happens to trigger on an enemy, a green ball will spawn on them, which will make it easier for you to hit your shots by sucking your bullets in. Bear in mind that this buff doesn't apply to the weapon stolen by Xaku's second ability, Grasp of Loke. Speaking of which, yeah, that one. As I've already said, this ability yoinks away enemy weapons and gives them to you for a duration. They aim for you, shoot for you, and make choosing a weapon for your loadout almost a thing of the past. Now, I know there's going to be some endgame virgins saying, but what about the effectiveness as levels increase? Shut up! If you knew anything about Xaku, you'd know that you can use this shit at level cap just fine. For the sake of beginners though, yeah, no, it does kind of fall off because you don't have access to the resource that the advanced players would. Now, Warframe Femboy Mommy isn't gonna bounce on it till your balls burst because you cried in his comments section. Now go take a hike, you musty overframe plebs. Apologies, my darling beginner, where was I? Right. Moving on to Xaku's third ability, the Lost, or what I affectionately refer to as the Spooky Triforce. This ability is 3-in-1. You know, neat thing about Xaku, DE decided to make this Warframe literally 3 motherfuckers, refer to the Venom meme on screen now. This ability, similar to its name, is where some players could get lost in trying to use it if they're not used to this sort of thing. So I'll do my best to hold your hand as I explain the ability equivalent of multiple personality disorder. Tapping the ability will cycle through and select the sub-abilities as seen here. Holding the ability will cast the selected sub-ability. Now that you know how to pick and choose your punishments, on to what each one does. First up, Accuse. This one is incredibly simple. Spawn a rift at your cursor and enemies within a distance of said rift will become your allies for a time. Think of it like a radial mind control. Be aware that you can steal weapons from mind-controlled units, so feel free to use these guys as a portable weapon bag or something. Next, Gaze. Hover your cursor over an enemy and cast the ability to immobilize the unit and create a field of defense reduction. As the words defense reduction suggest, it takes an enemy's defensive stat and reduces it. So, shields for shielded units are cut, armored units have their armor partially stripped, and units with both shields and armor just have their shields reduced, for whatever reason. Scott! Keep in mind that Gaze doesn't impact Overguard, so Eximus units are still gonna be a bitch. Another important bit of information about this ability is that you can have 2 Gaze fields out at any given time. Unfortunately, the defense reduction does not increase if the areas overlap, so spread out Gaze fields like they're allergic to each other. For those of you who don't do well with detail, all that mumbo-jumbo I just spewed essentially means that the baddies are easier to kill after they walk into the field created by Gaze, and you can have 2 out at any given time. Another thing to keep in mind is that as soon as enemies leave the field, their defenses will return in full, so keep them in the Squishify circle. Last little tidbit about Gaze. The enemy ensnared by Gaze will have all damage dealt to it hit it all at once upon the ability ending. That was quite a bit for one ability. Surely the last sub-ability of the Lost, Deny, can't be too complicated, right? You would be right in assuming that. Deny is pretty simple. Look at a sentient that has too many resistances and blast it. This will wipe away all of the sentient's resistances and make it easier to damage. Side note, Deny does more damage when Zada's Whisper is active. I don't imagine you'll build around a Deny Kamehameha, but here's some extra info in case you do. Don't do that, by the way, Wisp exists. So, think of Deny as your button that solves your space chopstick problem. Now last and most certainly not least, Xaku's fourth ability, the Vast Untime, or as I call it, Calcium Crusade. With this transformation, Xaku sheds all dead weight and evolves to their final spooky form, a skeleton. While crusading in the name of calcium, you gain a 75% chance to dodge any and all incoming attacks, including gunfire and melee. This is like using a dodge build in Payday 2. More importantly though, you'll notice that Jack Skellington mode will pause any and all active ability timers. Just means you won't have to worry about any abilities running out while spookified. Once the Vast Done time ends, your ability timers will resume countdown. Just pop the ability again to pause the timers once more. When you do aggressively remove your armor, you'll release a blast that damages and slows enemies as well as makes them more vulnerable to void damage specifically. Don't worry about damage vulnerability multipliers for now, just know it's yet another way to, and say it with me now, make the enemies easier to kill. This only applies to enemies hit by the blast though, so don't expect any enemies that you didn't see get hit by the blast to suffer any debuffs. Now that you know what each ability does, let's go over use cases. When I was new to the game, I almost never used my abilities. I was always thinking, should I use this? When? Why? So I figured I'd add this in for anybody like me. Following the same fashion as before, first ability use cases. Zada's Whisper is a damage buff, so you can use it when you see an enemy that's particularly hard to deal with. You can honestly use Zada's Whisper whenever, and it will always be a performance increase, so you can relax about it. Next up, Grasp of Lulk. Fuck you, D. I damn near throw up every time I say I'm not saying that shit. I know I put it in the script, but I ain't fucking saying it again. This is a gun yoink, so anytime you see a sizable group of enemies, you should run in the middle of them and steal their guns. You can also use this when you've already been surrounded by enemies, so you can take some of the heat off you. Moving on to Accuse, this one is also pretty easy to get the hang of. Use it when you're surrounded by a group of enemies. This will give you meat shields and extra guns. Remember that you can steal guns with Grasp of, I'm not saying that again, from entranced enemies. I'd highly recommend using Accuse and then following up with the grabby hands, tendrils I suppose, so you have an easier time stealing weapons and you get some sandbags out of it. Didn't Russia try something similar way back when, or something? I don't know, I'm not a history buff on what you humans do. Looking forward, Gaze. Much like Zada's Whisper, this is almost always a good choice. Use it when you see particularly strong enemies or just want to mow things down faster. Another good use for this is creating a field around a defense or mobile defense target. It makes sense you'd want the enemies closest to you to die first, right? Remember that you can have two fields going simultaneously, which should make choosing critical areas slightly less stressful, as you have room to mess up. Keeping it truckin', we have Deny. Use this to strip sentients of their resistances and don't preemptively blast them with Deny. I tested it and it does fuck all. This is the easiest ability to use correctly, as there's really only one very clear scenario where you'd ever use it, while eating ramen. Rounding off the end, the Vast Done time. The best time to use this ability is when you have an ability up that you want to keep up. Say you stole some weapons with Grasp of Lulk, use Skella mode to make it last longer. You can also just use this ability when you're taking a lot of damage to lessen it. Then there's my favorite time to use it, when you have every ability active at once so you can become a robeless raper. Alrighty, we've covered abilities and how to use them. On to the build. I tried to use as few mods as possible to keep with the Xaku's skeleton theme. I literally called the build bare bones after all. I also restricted myself to mods I knew beginners would have access to, so you don't have to go spending your precious Umbral Forma or spending Plaid on rare mods. I bet this looks overly simple to you, so let me explain. I used max shields and shield regeneration to protect the health as much as possible. Some would say armor does that better, but you don't need armor if your health doesn't get hit, now do ya? As for why I chose range and duration, it's pretty simple. Range lets any field you generate, like from Gaze or Accuse, cover more area, making it easier to use. Range also increases the amount of guns you can steal, vastly increasing your DPS. More to why I used range is that you can steal weapons and have those weapons lock on from farther away, which should help you keep a healthy distance from enemies. Think of it as yet another way to avoid getting hit. Now, duration just makes your stuff last longer and means you don't have to pop abilities as much, allowing you more time to gather energy to use those abilities again, which should lessen your stress and make playing Xaku easier. Now, as you can see, when I said this build is going to be easy to copy, I meant it. You don't need a Catalyst, or Reactor, Forma, or even an Aura mod. You can max these mods out as you please, whilst you complete the star chart, so no need to worry about bringing them all to full capacity right away. Do I recommend this be the final build you run on Xaku? Fuck no, what do you think I am, retarded? This is just something to get you used to Xaku's kit, piece by piece. Sure, it does just fine against units from Circulus on Lua, even gets you through low-end index wagers too, but I'd still strongly recommend tuning your Xaku and adding onto them to your liking. So, what would advancing your build look like? You would eventually incorporate mods like Overextended and Arcanes like Arcane Energize, but I don't imagine many baby Tenno have access to those sorts of things, so back to basics. Another thing you should focus on is weapons. I went with the Gotva Prime, obtained from Barrow whenever he decides to bring it around. So here's my build for the Gotva Prime in case you want to copy it yourself. No forma is required, you just need a catalyst. This won't get you doing level cap damage, but it will get the job done as far as normal star chart is concerned. Hammer shot isn't required either, just using rifle aptitude should get you where you need to be. You can use the Gotva Prime on any setup and it'll perform pretty well, so keep it around once you get your hands on it. Spoilers ahead if you haven't completed the second dream yet. So, moving on to Focus School, I'd recommend Xeneric. It makes energy management easier, which should make getting the hang of your abilities easier in turn. Alright, now that you know how to use Xaku and have an idea on how to kit yourself out, how do you go about getting Xaku? I hope you like the open world, or have a friend loaded up on minerals, cause some of the necessary resources are found in the trenches. But before we get into that, we need to know where to get Xaku's main blueprints from. Xaku's primary blueprint can be obtained from completing the Heart of Deimos quest, or by being purchased from Cephalon Samaris for 50k standing in any relay you have access to. As for the other blueprints, it's a bit more complicated. Those are obtained from Deimos bounties given out by Space Ant. The easiest part blueprint to obtain is the Neuroptics. This drops from the level 15 to 25 bounty. Next up is the Systems blueprint, dropping from the level 30 to 40 bounty. And finally, the Chassis blueprint drops from the level 40 to 50 bounty. I'd highly recommend completing all the sub-objectives to get the most amount of rewards out of every bounty, which should lead to obtaining Xaku quicker. And for the love of hell, please do these bounties in a public squad or with friends. Solo farming this stuff can be miserable, I should know considering I solo farmed both Revenant and Garuda. Save yourself the misery and brain death. Cheeto. Don't do this alone. Or maybe you're like me and enjoy being alone more than you hate being bored, in which case, solo it all you want. Alright, time for the resources you need to get Xaku up and running. The main blueprint only requires 3 Orokin cells outside of the parts. I'd recommend going through standard Deimos missions since that's the most immediately available mission set where these are common. What you want to look for are these, cell arrays. Pop them with your weapons or abilities and you get an Orokin cell. You will have to run a few missions to accrue the necessary cells, so be ready for that. Moving on, the Neuroptics require neural sensors, Athomic Distillate, Sharak Teeth, and Eshar Devar. Or however the fuck you pronounce that, Scott. The teeth are the easiest to get. You just need to fish a little near the ocean, catch these guys specifically, and take the fish back to High-Look to be cut up. Neural sensors are also pretty easy to come by. Just run your favorite Jupiter missions, and you should have plenty. It's at this point in the script I realize Xaku needs a lot of funny rocks and junk. I will no longer be going part by part and listing off the ingredients. I'm just going to go through this quickly so I don't delay the video by another 2 weeks. Athomic Distillate, reach rank 2 with the Entrati on Deimos, ask for the blueprint nicely while holding Otak at gunpoint, as you do. Load up on Gallium, mine yellow spots on the Cambion Drift for Thaumica. Escher Devar, reach rank 1 with the Ostrons, hold the old man at gunpoint, and swipe the print. Mine the blue veins on the plains Vitalon for Devar. Venerdo Alloy, reach rank 1 with Solaris United, hold the Clanker at gunpoint, and swipe the print. Mine red veins for Veneral, and load up on Rubedo and Gallium. Breath of the Eidolon, complete Cetus bounties level 40 to 60. Scintillant, Isolation Vault bounties on Deimos. You will run into the Gundams, they are hard to kill, do your bounties on public. Pustulite, pop these plants on the Cambion Drift. Ganglion, pop these plants on the Cambion Drift. Gyromag Systems, any and all bounties given out by Utico in the backrooms. Just do the easiest one, you clicked on this video. I'm not expecting you to be able to fight the Shadow Wizard Money Spider. You can also get them for standing from Little Duck. Spinal Core section, fish for these two out in the Cambion Drift, specifically in caves, and then cut them up with the creature. Obligatory fuck you to this ungrateful bastard, by the way. And lastly, Lucent Terra Globes. Complete Deimos bounties level 5 to 15 or crack open the cysts around obelisks. Okay, that covers everything and anything someone new to Xaku might want to know. Check out all the links below. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to practicing blue lock goals for that soccer video at 2.5k subscribers. Take care of yourself.